we'll move on. Alright then. So, as I mentioned before, this is presentation number 2. Today's presentation is going to focus more on the actual AICE courses. We'll look at the entire gamut of AICE courses that are available at Broward schools. There are 33 in all. Some of them are combined into one slide, but we'll go over all of them and how they could benefit you, as well as what careers they pertain to. Additionally, at the end of the presentation, I'll invite you to complete some surveys on Naviance, if you haven't already, to better find your academic and career interests, which may be helpful so that you can compare this presentation to your results on these surveys. And a couple things to keep in mind. Today we'll be going over quite a lot of detail, but don't worry too much about the exact specifics, except for whatever you're interested in. There's nothing on here that you need to really remember, and of course I'll be publishing the presentation afterwards for posterity, and also you can always ask me any questions either on my Instagram, which I've posted before, or by emailing me at bishanirmanbaria@gmail.com. During the presentation, though, we'll be looking at the pass rates, which are very often what students use to determine the difficulty of courses. That being said, pass rates are just a rule of thumb. They're not absolute. You can always do well in any AICE course with enough effort, and though many of them do have a reputation for difficulty, they're not actually as difficult as they may seem. Additionally, many courses are only available at certain schools. There are 33 AICE courses currently available, either at AS or at AS and A level, in Broward schools. But there are 55 total, so that's 22 that aren't even in the Broward school system yet. That being said, all the schools are looking to add to their AICE curriculum, so ask your teachers and counselors to add any courses that you're interested in. At the end of the presentation, I'll be giving you a spreadsheet, as well as the link to Cambridge's own website where they go over all the courses, so that you can take a look at other interests beyond what we're going to cover today. Finally, the prerequisites. I considered publishing prerequisites, but when I looked, different schools have different requirements. For example, AICE Biology at my school, Fort Lauderdale, you're required to take both chemistry honors and biology honors before taking AICE Biology. However, at a different school, you only have to take AICE Biology. And in general, keep an open mind. AICE courses are engaging no matter what you take, so don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone or even into fields that you may not have had an interest or don't have an interest in taking as a career. Because having a wider variety of knowledge is always a good thing, and some of these courses even have very wide applications beyond the specific careers we'll be mentioning today. Just to go over the Cambridge Diploma, once again, I mentioned this in the last presentation, but you'll need a total of 7 credits required for the diploma, one of which must be AICE Global Perspectives at the AS level. Then you'll need one from 3 groups each: math and science, arts and humanities, and languages. You also have the option to take interdisciplinary subjects, and you'll have to take 3 other credits in addition to the 4 mandatory from any of the groups. Some of the courses belong to 2 groups where you can choose which group it counts towards for your AICE diploma. but most only have one group. As the diagram shows, Group 4, interdisciplinary subjects, is limited to only 2 credits. This becomes a problem sometimes because students like to take multiple interdisciplinary credits, and this can add up. After a point, they won't count it. We'll go into even more detail about how to plan to avoid that and other issues with your AICE diploma in our third presentation, where we'll go over the diploma and how it applies to college. And then we'll start with the AICE courses. Some of these I'm going to run through pretty quickly because there's not much to say about them. Others I have personal anecdotes from taking them. And if you'd like to know more, I can always get in touch with someone who might know more, a teacher perhaps, especially if they're at Fort Lauderdale. In general, this is what all the slides look like. It has the group number, what levels are available at Broward schools, the pass rate, of course the name, some careers, the schools it's available at, and a short description. Here we'll start with art and design. Art and design is a very interesting syllabus because it's very creative, though you might expect that, obviously, from the name. Cambridge likes to give you a portfolio view of the subject, so to speak. But they also like to encourage students to look into how they observe and understand the visual world. So it's not just an art class per se, but it also focuses on elements of both modern and classical design, and how that applies not only to you, but also to the world around you. You'll notice that a common theme is in fact that the world and how it relates to you is something that comes up very often in Cambridge courses. Art and design is only for the moment available at Cypress Bay. You have 3 options for your project. You can do fashion or clothing design, graphic design, or interior design, I believe. And that's why those are careers that might be very well suited to taking this course. Biology. This is one of the courses I'm taking right now, as you might expect from the fact that many medical students take biology as their major in college. This is an A level or AS level, very much geared towards medical-oriented people. However, at AS level and A level, it's still a fundamental and practical course, so you could find it very useful for learning how science works as a concept and as a system, even if you're not planning on going into sciences or medicine. Right now, biology isn't available at many Broward schools, but some of the bigger ones have it: Cypress Bay, Fort Lauderdale, South Broward, South Plantation. Despite the pass rate that you see up there, it's 82%, that's fairly high for an AICE course. It's generally considered a difficult course because of the amount of material you have to learn, and also for the fact that there is a practical paper. You actually go into the lab in, I believe it's early June. It's one of the last exams, I believe. Oh, actually, I have it right here. It's on the 25th of May this year. But oftentimes it's towards the end of the year, and at that point, you'll be called on to actually do an experiment and confirm the results of other scientists through a paper. I believe it's 2 hours long. So that's one of the reasons why it's considered very difficult. Don't let that dissuade you with biology. It's an incredibly rewarding course. I've had a very fun time with it. Business. This is one of the more generalized A-levels. Anybody going into any form of business, finance, or accounting would definitely stand to gain a lot from this course. You'll examine the process of decision making, which is of course useful to really anyone, not just people going into business. Right now though, it's only available at a couple schools, but if you're interested, let your guidance counselors know. Chemistry. Once again, this is another one of those science-related courses. I don't have experience with this one, unlike biology, but in the same vein, it encourages both creative thinking and practical application skills. Chemists, engineers, and pharmacists stand to benefit a lot, but again, because it exposes you to the scientific method and process, it's a great course for anyone looking to diversify their student experience. Classical Studies. Classical Studies is a very interesting course. It's very unique. You study Greek and Roman history through original sources from the time period. It's also unique for being available only in the November series. You may remember from my last presentation I said that the November series was mostly for retakes, the exams that you take if you happen to fail in the June series. However, unlike those June exams, Classical Studies is only available in November, so you take it after the school year is done and into the next school year. I'm not exactly sure, you'd have to check with your guidance counselors or your AICE coordinator, but this probably means that it's not available for seniors to take. Computer science. As I'm sure you're all aware, computer science is a very large field and it's growing considerably. Not only right now, but it's projected to grow even further in the next decade. This is a great course to take if you want to pad out your resume for future jobs or get a head start on your degrees in computer science or in data science. It's also great for web design. That being said, it's being replaced, the syllabus, so we're getting new information about how Cambridge will assess students in the future. The course for now, though, develops computational thinking and programming skills. Digital media and design. Here's another one of those interesting creative ones. In digital media and design, you focus on your own project, but you also learn to collaborate with others in creation. If you're interested in learning more, of course, you can read the syllabus on the Cambridge website. Right now, though, it's only available at a couple schools, so you probably don't have it at yours. Divinity. Here's another interesting one, and for some reason the picture didn't update. But the Divinity course is actually being introduced to Broward schools at J.P. Taravella High. It focuses on biblical studies, interestingly enough, in a not religious, but more so a historical view, I believe. However, you'll have to check that for yourself. Perhaps you're interested in adding that to your school's curriculum. Here's a big one. Drama is a course that's being introduced not only to Broward schools, but also to Cambridge itself. The first assessment was scheduled for this year, in fact, in June, I believe, in the June series. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, it's not been a smooth transition. The schools that have it right now are Cooper City, Cypress Bay, Fort Lauderdale, South Plantation, and J.P. Taravella. The students not only perform a play, but they also get to write one, which is a really interesting thing. So this is not just for actors, but also for writers and playwrights as well. It's being added to more schools, I imagine, as it gets to be a useful capstone to the normal progress of theater classes. So if you're a theater kid You may be interested in taking this or calling on your school to add it. I'm sure you and your friends would love to take this class. Economics. This course is only available at Cypress Bay for the moment, and it focuses largely on macroeconomic theory. In that sense, it's more equivalent to AP Macro as opposed to AP Microeconomics if those courses are available at your school. Of course, despite my example careers showing mostly business and economic related fields, economics is a course that's applicable to almost everyone, really, because you'll be part of the economy. In fact, you already are part of the economy. So if you're interested in learning the intricacies of how you and the world interact with money and finance and the markets, this is a good course for you. English General Paper. You're probably taking this already if you're in 9th grade and you're here, or if you're older, you've probably taken it already. It's almost universally required. It substitutes for English 1 in the 9th grade, and it's actually the only course that's available at every single Cambridge school in Broward County. It's actually a very useful course. You may not have thought about it that way, but because you have to demonstrate reading comprehension and essay writing on a higher scale than you might be expected on the FSA, it's a great introductory course to Cambridge as a whole and what they expect of you and how that differs from the state exams. This is a great transition into high school and Cambridge. English language. Here's another fairly universal course. It's not as universal as general paper, but it's available at all the schools except for Dillard, Hallandale, Lauderhill, and MacArthur. The students analyze texts and write creatively, and as I said before, it's almost universally required, being the transition between general paper and either AICE literature or AICE English Language A-level, which we'll talk about in a minute, or AP Language. This is a really interesting course. I did very well in it last year when I was in 10th grade because I love to write creatively. You'll be called on not only to analyze a piece of fiction or non-fiction that's descriptive in nature, and then you'll be called to emulate that product in the form of a short response, where you'll have to use descriptive language such as metaphors, similes, and other comparisons in order to form your own product. So if you're interested in writing, this is an awesome course, and you'll probably like the next course even more. That's the English Language A-level. This is great for writers, linguists, and maybe any aspiring teachers out there. That's because it focuses on the wider view of English. You do get to write and analyze, just as you did in the AS level. And you'll even be called upon to think a bit creatively and do a little bit of thought into your own language usage right on the exam. This A-level focuses on globalization of English and childhood language acquisition. I'm taking it right now and I can say it's very interesting. If you have something that you want, if you have an open course and you don't really want to take an AP just yet in junior year, definitely a great course to take, though it's only available at Cypress Bay and Fort Lauderdale for now. English literature. A lot of schools have opted to go into English literature instead of English language A-level because it more emulates the AP, trajectory, which, as you may know, goes language and then literature. Usually in the 11th to 12th, but sometimes in the 10th to 11th grades. Several schools have this, as you can see. You'll be called upon to read and analyze prose, poetry, and drama. Of course, as it's a very reading-intense course, it's considered one of the more difficult AS levels. However, as I've said before, don't let that dissuade you. It can be really useful to know this stuff for your APs later on, or in college if you plan on majoring in English or another humanities or liberal arts field. Environmental management. Here's another fairly universal course, though despite the fact that it's available at many schools, not everyone ends up taking it, for various reasons. Environmental management is something that's very close to home, of course. The Everglades is right out in our backyard, and much of environmental management at the AS level focuses on environmental data and how the environment is managed. As you may know, the entirety of South Florida basically is built on a series of canals that drain the water and let it flow out to the Everglades without flooding the rest of the land. So this is a great course if you're interested in learning more about how that works and how we interact with our environment as humans, polluting the planet and cleaning up after ourselves. Despite this wide view, it's considered a general science course. It's oftentimes taken in 10th grade instead of chemistry or physics because of its unique nature with Florida, of course, being a very environmentally managed state. Foreign languages. I decided to condense all the foreign languages into one slide because they're all largely the same course, just in different languages. Unfortunately, Broward schools only offer French and Spanish, with the one exception of Chinese being available at Cypress Bay. Foreign language AICE classes tend to have very bad reputations because students don't feel comfortable with the language. That's understandable, and you may be among them. However, the AS levels are generally fairly easy. As you can see, about 95% of people pass the Spanish exam, and about 80% pass the French exam. So don't let that fact dissuade you. Learning a language is difficult. I'm currently in French 3. I'm going to be in AICE French next year. And it's no cakewalk. And it's definitely a step up to go to the AICE class. However, it can be very rewarding to study a language so definitively and cap off your career in that language with an AICE credit. Geography. This is an interesting course because it not only focuses on the human geography, what we might think of as places, rivers, political boundaries, countries and continents, but it also focuses on the physical aspect of geography. You know, how land is formed, watersheds, and geographic features in general. Right now, geography isn't very widely available. However, there is some talk of moving it to other schools because there isn't really another course that corresponds so well with it, either at the normal honors level or even at the AP. The AP, the closest would usually be AP Human Geography. And here's our biggest one. This is the one I've gotten the most questions about, I think, is global perspectives. As you may know if you've taken Global Perspectives, it's a very wide-encompassing research course. The idea is that you'll do reasoned thinking on several projects throughout the year, both with others and on your own. There's a 2,000-word research paper, and there's also the 8-minute presentation on a common group topic. For both of these, you'll pick a research question to do, and then you'll answer it using various sources that you collect throughout the year. It's required of all the candidates for the AICE diploma, and it's available at all the Cambridge schools except Dilworth, Hallandale, and Lauderhill, and that's because those 3 schools are just starting out their Cambridge programs this year or last year. A lot of people ask about the presentation, the oral presentation, because it definitely seems like quite a lot. 8 minutes does seem to be a lot for someone not used to speaking. But just to put it in perspective, this meeting has actually been going on for 26 minutes and 15 seconds. So once you get in the habit of speaking about something, which you will as you practice and practice continually for the presentation at the end of the year, you'll get used to the idea of talking so much about your research project. My recommendation is, when thinking about going into this course, think about what you are interested in that you can apply to a global issue. If you can find something in your life that you're interested in by yourself and then apply that to your project, you'll definitely do a lot better. Unlike the AS level, Global Perspectives A level isn't available at many schools, just Cypress Bay and Fort Lauderdale. Despite this, it's quite an underrated course. Students will write a 5,000-word research paper, which again does sound like a lot, but once you actually start writing, it ends up being a lot less intimidating. It's a great preparation for college essay writing, which is why I recommend that if you're at one of these schools to take it, and if you're not at one of these schools, I highly recommend pressuring your guidance counselors to add it, because it is incredibly useful for getting used to the idea of writing in a coherent manner, and also for citing sources systematically. You may have noticed that on most of my photos I have them marked with the author, and at least for the ones where I was able to confirm the author of the photo. That's something I learned in Global Perspectives. You learn how to use sources in a coherent and intelligent manner. So I highly recommend for really anyone who can and wants to go into college to take this course. Here's history. I condensed all 3 variants of history for AICE into one. That's because they're all considered the same syllabus, they're just variations thereof. Most schools have at least one, and I believe more than half have 2, usually US and European, and a couple do international and US. Regardless, you'll generally be called upon to take 2 unless you're going into AP for one of these courses. The course focuses on essay writing as opposed to actual historical content per se. So if you're used to multiple choice tests on history, you'll have to throw that out the window, because Cambridge is not at all like that with history. In fact, because of all this essay writing, it's considered more of an English class than a history class in many respects. Yes, you do learn the history, but the amount of writing you do is quite obscene, in fact. And I can attest to that, having been in European history and am currently in US history. Because of the crunch It's considered a low passing class. In fact, the pass rate of 53.6% is the second lowest out of all 55 AICE AS level classes. Despite this, I do have to say that you have to be dedicated and you have to practice a lot. But if you can do it, history can actually be a very rewarding course. Getting that A grade like I did at the end of the next school year can really lend credence to your abilities to both write and analyze history. Information technology. Here's another big field that's growing currently in the job market. IT is an AS level that's only available at Cypress Bay and South Broward, but because of the expansion of need for IT people, you can expect it to be added to your school perhaps, or more at least, in the coming years. Excuse me. It's a great subject not only for these careers, research scientists, computer security analysts, but also for anyone who wants to understand the flow of information and how that relates to the modern world. If you think about it, the internet really is just a mass of information, and that's something you'll study in IT. Here's another great course, Marine Science. It's available at almost all the schools, except for Dillard, Hallandale, JP Taravella, and Western. It combines elements of both biology and chemistry, and to a lesser degree a little bit of physics in the sense of how it relates to chemistry, as well as some geography. The idea is that you'll understand the connections between ourselves as humans and the sea through this course. It also involves a little bit of math, just to warn you, but it's not too much, and it mostly involves graphing. Despite the fact that it's often recommended to high-performing students that they take it in 9th grade, you can take it in 10th or 11th grade. With some effort, you can succeed. I had a great teacher. His name is Mr. Montenegro at Fort Lauderdale High School. He's probably one of the best teachers I've ever had. He's a very dedicated teacher, and I bet that your teacher at your school will be very dedicated as well, because marine science is a very special course to Floridians, and Florida being surrounded by the sea. The A-level is available only at Cypress Bay and South Broward. It mostly focuses on similar but more extended subjects beyond what you study at AS level. Mathematics. This one definitely gets people excited. Luckily for all you not math-oriented people, myself included, it's only available at Cypress Bay at the moment. Students study pure mathematics and statistics, and it's great for, obviously, not just mathematicians, but also scientists and engineers who are looking to get a head start on their college studies in mathematics. Media studies. This one gets passed up a lot because of the intriguing nature. It's a bit nebulous what media studies is, so I'll clear that up now. Students create their own media projects, as I noted, and they analyze various forms of media. This includes written, spoken, listening, television and film forms, as well as computerized content, video games, and how this all relates to the modern and technological world. As I said before, it gets passed up a lot because of the nebulous nature, but if you're looking to learn more about the media and how it influences you, and what you can do about that, and especially if you're interested in creating media as a profession, this is a great course for you. The AICE is available at 5 high schools, Cooper City, Everglades, Hallandale, Piper, and JP Taravella, and the A-level is available at Cypress Bay, Fort Lauderdale, and Western. Media Studies is continually expanding. I know that Fort Lauderdale added its A-level in Media Studies, I believe, 1 or 2 years ago. So this may be a great course to pressure your guidance counselors on if you're interested. Music. I'm not sure if we have any musicians out here, but this is a great course, as you might expect for you. The focus, again, is on international multicultural music studies. Again, the theme of Cambridge's globalism and internationalism reflects itself in the music curriculum. Students get to compose their own pieces and not just perform. So this is a great course to gain more understanding of all elements of music. Expect this course to be added to more schools, as it, just like drama, forms a great capstone to normal honors courses. Physical education. Again, I doubt we have many people interested in physical education here, but it's always good to talk about physical education because it, again, gets a bad rap. It's not just physical education in the sense of actually working out, though that is involved. Physical education is incredibly interesting because it also focuses on health, nutrition, and the medical, anatomical sense of physical education. So not only will you learn about sport and the global trends, you'll also learn about the anatomical structures and why humans have the limitations in sport that they do, and how sportsmen are able to complete such superhuman feats. With the Olympics coming up this summer, I'm sure many of you may be interested in checking this one out just to see what it's about. Unfortunately, it's only available at 2 schools right now, Everglades and Fort Lauderdale. I should note that if you complete your AICE diploma, you won't have to take any physical education courses whatsoever. So this may appeal to those who would not otherwise have to take physical education but are interested in either the medical aspect or the physical aspect of this course. Psychology. If you've ever wanted to know about the inner workings of the self, this is a great course for you, and it's very widely available. Despite the low pass rate, it's a very intriguing course, as I've heard from my friends, and it involves various aspects of what we consider psychology, including the biological, which is not always considered in the lower level psychology courses. It's available at a variety of schools, as you can see, and it's a great career not only for actual psychologists, but also for people interested in social work. So that would be involvement in perhaps homelessness or children or elderly people. In addition, psychology is always a good addition to anyone's repertoire, because it helps you understand the interactions between people and themselves at a greater level, which could enable you to have the edge in understanding business interactions or interviews. In a similar vein, we have sociology, which is the study of society, obviously. The AS level is available at a similar amount of schools to psychology, and it does pair well with psychology, in fact, because of the slight overlap. Though sociology focuses more on the study of society, It also focuses on the cultural aspect of the self and how our reactions to society can help shape it. It also focuses on the diversity of human cultures, as would be expected for Cambridge and their global sphere and influence. And it's a great course for anyone going into politics or who is perhaps interested in public policy. Thinking skills. Here's a great course for everyone. It's a bit difficult, but it's considered a great course to develop your critical thinking skills, which you'll definitely need not just to take other AICE courses, but also in college. That's why it makes a good starter course, just like the general paper. However, it's usually taken a couple years in, usually in the 10th or 11th grade instead of just in the 9th. The focus is on problem solving. There's some mathematics involved, but not as much as an actual math class. It's more in the sense of logical reasoning and critical thinking. You'll also be called upon to evaluate evidence, kind of like a judge or a jury, but at a smaller scale and not with the large ramifications thereof. Because of its interdisciplinary status, it's available quite widely, except at Hallandale and MacArthur high schools. And as you can see from the presentation, the A level is starting to gain some traction as it's available at Cypress Bay, and I expect that it will be added to several schools. I know that Fort Lauderdale is talking about adding it, and I imagine some of the other schools such as South Broward or Western are probably looking at this one too. And last, we have travel and tourism. Another one of those courses that's very relevant to Florida, as it's a big tourism state. It's one of the largest elements of our economy. This course is generally considered fairly easy despite the low pass rate, as long as you stay on track. The reason for that is because students work in teams to plan a travel event instead of actually writing another paper. So you only write one paper and give a presentation about your travel event for the second component. Though it's only available at a couple of schools because of the fact that it's so relevant to Florida, I would expect this course to be added to several more schools in the coming future. And if you're interested in tourism-related fields such as hospitality or event planning, you may want to ask your guidance counselor if you can add this. I know that the travel and tourism class at Fort Lauderdale is offered by, I believe, the business teacher, so you may want to take a look and ask them about this course. Alright, I've talked quite a bit. So now is the time to go to Naviance. This is what we'll be using to do our assessments today. I won't require that you do them, because it is already been 43 minutes. I've done a lot of talking. I'm sure you've tuned me out already and you're quite tired. But if you are interested in learning more about yourself and what courses may be good for you, I would do this. Go to Naviance via the SSO, the single sign-on. That's Broward.sso. Let me check that. Broward.sso, the single sign-on. And then you'll go to About Me. That's in the top right corner. You'll click on that and then click on My Assessments. And then I'd like you to complete Do What You Are, which is basically a Breyer-Miggs personality test, a career interest profile, and the career cluster identifier. These will all give you a bunch of key terms that you may look for in this presentation to find courses that would be geared towards your interests and what you may have in mind as a career, as well as your larger picture of who you are as a person. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes each, I would say, so don't feel any pressure to do them if you don't want to. With that, I'm done with my presentation. Here's a couple of resources, as I mentioned previously. There's a list of AICE courses at Broward High Schools, which is a spreadsheet, and Cambridge's own website. This links directly to the list of AS and A-levels. There you can see all the 22 other A-levels that aren't given in Broward schools. Most of those are languages such as Japanese and Portuguese, German, what have you, that aren't given in Broward County. But there's also some interesting ones, such as accounting and law, that aren't given in Broward schools, despite us having programs geared towards that. With that, I'm done talking, really. If you have any questions, feel free to ask now. Alejandra, I don't even think there's a way to do it again. There might be, if you clear it, but I wouldn't say do it again unless it's more than, say, 4 or 5 years old, or if you think your personality has changed that much in the meantime. Now, sorry about all the information, but I'm glad that you learned about some AICE classes that you didn't even know about. If you want to learn more, like I said, there's still 22 others that I did not cover because they're not available in Broward schools yet on the Cambridge website. Well, like I said, I'm done with everything. I'm sure if you have done the assessments that I recommended, you may have some questions about how that applies to AICE courses. Feel free to shoot me an email or DM me on Instagram for that. And yeah, that's it, really. Well, it's 5 o'clock now, so I'll let you all go. And all I'd like to say is our next meeting is on the 31st, so that's the Wednesday we get back after spring break, at the same time, 4 p.m. In that presentation, we'll be going over the AICE curriculum and how that transfers to colleges, as well as the AICE Diploma completion. There's a lot of misconceptions about how the AICE Diploma is applied with bright futures and whatnot, so I'd like to clear that up. That's definitely the most important presentation of the 3, so I highly recommend that you show up to it in person. That goes for both you 3 that are here with me today, and also for anyone who may be watching this after the fact. With that, that's all. Au revoir. Yeah, have a great spring break, everyone.